So I knew that whatever came out of the election on Tuesday, there were likely to be some big feelings had by just about everyone. I have certainly had some big feelings this week, including on a very small and personal level, the after effects of working at my local polling place for 15 straight hours on election day. Not to be flip, my back in particular had some feelings about that, which I'm still working through a little bit. I'm not used to standing quite that much in my day job. But besides that, I've had a lot of feelings about the outcome of this election, and I imagine that no matter whom you have supported, you have had some feelings too. So I want to make it clear that this community, one in which we honor our joys and sorrows each week, this is a place for you to feel those feelings. They are yours. They may or may not match up perfectly with anyone else's, and that's okay. But we gather on Sundays and sometimes on other days as well together to support one another in good times and in challenging ones. I also want to be very clear that this is a community that strives always to be welcoming and open and safe for all of its members. We don't always do those things perfectly. We make a lot of mistakes. But this is never a place where behavior that discriminates against others is welcome. This is instead a community that strives to make all people feel safe, as best we can in a world that is not safe. So I again want to honor what each of us might be feeling today, but also, I hope you will come with me on this journey, want to do a little more than that, or at least begin to do more than that. I want to talk about what we're called to do in this world, how our work, though it changes depending on the situation in our world, is always aimed at creating, nurturing, and sustaining beloved community. And so I titled this sermon, The Next Step. It was helpful. I think I've quoted this each of the last 3 weeks now, including today, but I'm going to do it again, or paraphrase at least, to recall the words we heard from the Reverend Luke Stevens Royer, who reminded us that no election by itself will destroy the world, nor will any election alone fix all of the world's problems. I hope that was a little bit of the message I gave our children today, that even the worst seeming thing may have some silver linings, and even the greatest blessing might have some problems with it. It's easy, though, given all of the rhetoric involved, and I think I'm still coming down off of like an addictive crash of not seeing any political commercials for the last 4 days. It's a little weird. It's good, I think, but my body was not quite ready for that. Anyway, it's easy, given all of that rhetoric, to feel otherwise, like the world is falling apart, or everything is wonderful, or there's no in-between. It can seem like that election is the only thing that matters. I don't think humans are very good at understanding this. We like to go to one pole or the other, which is part of the problem. Now, it's no secret that, given the nature of our Unitarian Universalist values, as expressed in various times and places over the years, decades, and centuries, that Unitarian Universalists tend to align more or less with the left, or at least the center of American politics. Though I want to stress that religious values and political policies never line up perfectly by any means. It's impossible, in fact, I think, to have a perfectly cohesive set of either religious or political viewpoints, much less ones that match up with one another. But having said that, Unitarian Universalists have tended to be on the left or liberal or progressive or radical side of most societal and political issues forever, basically. And I say this because I want to be clear about who we are as a community and to be transparent about that. I am not saying that we enforce a set of beliefs or views. In fact, we are very clear that we don't do that. And I do know that there are in existence conservative Unitarian Universalists, and at the very least there are many Unitarian Universalists, and I would include myself in this, who have at least one or two issues out there in which we might skew conservative. We decided long ago as a religious community, centuries ago in fact, that we didn't need to believe the exact same things in order to worship together or to be together in community. But there's a big but that follows after that. We agreed on that so long as we respect one another and fully acknowledge one another's humanity. And that, my friends, is where I get scared right now, because we are in an era in which too often the humanity of others is not acknowledged or respected. And without that, the most horrific things you can imagine and more are possible and perhaps even inevitable. So what do we do about that? The first thing, to jump back to the beginning, is to acknowledge the feelings I mentioned earlier. To acknowledge sadness or despair, upset, fear, worry, or a dozen other feelings and emotions you might be sitting with right now. And we can also acknowledge that things are complicated. In many state and local races, the views of those elected were quite different from those elected on the national scene. Frank already said it, but just in case he was a little bit cryptic there, because I think he's a very humble man, Frank Burns won his race for the Delaware State House. I think he's back getting coffee hour ready right now or something, which is very in line with what I know of him. So things are complicated. Maybe yes, maybe no, right? But here's what I know. We are still always called to live our mission in the world. The results of this election, no matter who had come out as the victor, were going to affect the strategies and tactics and short and medium-term goals that we will use and that we will aim for. But though the results of this election, of every election for that matter, can change those things, they do not, they will not, they cannot alter our ultimate goal of seeking to build beloved community. What do I mean by that? I mean community in which we respect and support one another. I mean community in which people feel safe and honored for who they are. I mean living in community that honors our world and treats it not as a garbage dump, but instead as the gift it is. I could talk for a whole hour about this, and maybe I should give a sermon just about beloved community. Maybe that's coming soon. But I also want to talk, I used the words of Dania Ruttenberg earlier that you heard from Karen very intentionally today. To talk about repair, to talk about forgiveness, to talk about how we can reach across gaps. I want to talk about how we can move forward even when we've made a mistake or when the thing we most hoped for didn't happen. In short, let's talk about repentance and repair and forgiveness, whether we are the one seeking forgiveness or the one granting it. In that spirit, I want to just say a few words that you heard earlier from that reading, just to repeat them so we can hear them once again. According to Maimonides, a person doesn't just get to mess up, mumble sorry, and get on with it. They're not entitled to forgiveness if they haven't done the work of repair. And they're not necessarily entitled to forgiveness even if they have. Fixing damage involves taking specific steps. There's a process. We can't ever undo what happened, but we can transform the situation and ourselves. I think even if we feel like we haven't made a mistake, we can learn something here. Fixing damage involves taking specific steps. There's a process. We're not going to fix the world today or even tomorrow. It's a process. So why do I talk about those seeking forgiveness? Because no matter who is at fault, and I'm not going to spend time today identifying those I think responsible, because I don't think I need to do so, our nation is broken. There are deep rents and divisions in our society, and we'll need to repair these if we're ever to achieve our most sought-after goals. So today we feel what we're feeling. Tomorrow we begin again the work of proclaiming the humanity of all people, of building bridges across divisions, of seeking and giving forgiveness that we might be ready to move forward together. I don't pretend that this work is easy or that it will achieve instant results, just the opposite, in fact. The work is hard, so hard. And it starts within ourselves, and it expands to those around us, and eventually to those around them, and eventually to the whole world. And no election, no matter the result, can stop that process. It can only delay it. I wanted to close with words from our UUA leaders that were sent out earlier this week. Beloveds, we will hold our fear together. We will honor our rage and our devastation and grief. We will hold one another ferociously, tenderly, faithfully. And then we will move deliberately. We will invest in trust. We will claim joy, rest, and sustenance. We will resist en masse and fight fascism and continue the struggle for democracy. We will continue to build our movements for justice. We will focus our efforts and abandon distractions. We will create safe harbor for those in danger. We will leverage our resources. We will sharpen our skills and our analysis. We will act as if no person is disposable. We will refuse the politics of division and despair. We will seek the wisdom of elders and of history. We will weave deeper connections with our neighbors. And we will fight for all of our survival. And we will create the conditions of possibility for our thriving and liberation. With deep love, faith, and solidarity from your UUA leaders. And I say, may it be so.